Good evening. This is the punctibyte for the second week of October, and we're headed into a really busy week. So, looking at the schedule first, and I wanted to talk about what's going on throughout the week to make it a little bit busy. First off, on Tuesday, I will be having the second lecture exam. So, we're going to have a little bit of busyness with students coming in and out for the exam. And of course, all of you know how to help with that. We don't have to use weird rooms this time, so that should be actually pretty helpful to be able to use the labs next door. It sounds like general bio is going to be able to move back home and to be back in their regular spaces, so we won't be contending with a lot of hundreds of extra biology students, and that'll be a little bit helpful. On that day, I'll be around all day, and we'll have some graders coming in later in the day to spell me for dinner. So I don't think I'll need any help with that. Just if there are times when maybe somebody comes in and I'm not around to be able to handle giving them an exam. And in terms of towards the latter part of the week, we'll be looking towards me being gone on Friday the 11th. And so I know I've got a lot of you who are going to be helping out on that day. I know Callie said that she would be there. And I'm still always looking for additional people that maybe can just be around in case that gets to be busy on that day that I'm gone. One other note is if there is anyone who would be willing to hit play on the vodcast for lecture, so at the 2:10 time frame, if anybody would be willing to go down and hit play on the vodcast, that would be super, super awesome and would really, really help me out a lot. So just shoot me an email and I don't know, maybe I'll do it Spurlock style and bake you cookies if you do help me play the vodcast on that day. In terms of other upcoming events that make things busy, we're having the practical exam next Tuesday. And for that practical, I would really like to receive your questions this week. So to be more explicit about the deadline for those questions, I'd like to receive the morning versions questions by morning on the 10th. So if you could get me, that is to say, so for the 8 a.m. and the 10 a.m. lab sections, so Schwa and John and Andy, as well as Callie and Jesse and Sydney, if you all can get me your questions by morning on Thursday, that would be great because it would allow me to start pooling those questions during the day on Thursday, and also to be able to start to think about what media I might need to inoculate for your lab section. And it would be lovely if I could get that done during the day on Thursday. So for the rest of you, you'll be on the PM version, and I don't need your questions until a little bit later, but I would like to have them by the late in the day on Thursday. That would be super califragilistic, and I could get all of the setup ready to go. I will be inoculating some media on Thursday and maybe on Friday morning, and then our primary setup will be on Monday. So I need to know from Sydney, Jesse, Callie, and Schwa, and John, and Andy, I need to know the time on Monday that will work for you for setup. I had thrown out a couple of possible times on the last vodcast, so I just need a confirmation from you on what time works the best. We'll be ready to go for the morning versions on Monday night. We'll have everything set up for those. But then at lunch on the Tuesday the 15th, we'll need to set up the afternoon version. So those of you who are able and teach an afternoon section, able to be there at lunch, will need help in changing out the versions there. The other thing that has to get done is to create an answer sheet. Now, it wouldn't hurt to do this at the same time that you choose your answers. Just think about, okay, I want this question and this question needs this many blanks, so I'll make an answer sheet at the same exact time. If you can get those to me on the Monday before the practical, I will make copies of those for you, and that'll be helpful to have those all ready to go for Tuesday. The other thing that's coming up next week is that our midterm grades are due. So these midterm grades are going to have everything up until this point, and that will include 14 pre-labs as well as all of the assignments that we've done. So this is where things get a little bit tricky, and I want to have your help on the midterm grades because with Canvas being a little bit new and we're still figuring out what we're going to do for this is I'm going to have you download the grades and put them into an Excel spreadsheet. And then I'm going to have you check to make sure that every student's points are tallying out of the expected number. So let's start with what the expected number is. And I've gone ahead and made an Excel document with that where you can see that the scores up until now include the pre-labs, the gram stain report, the pipette man tutorial, the press release dilutions, and the notebook. And that adds up to 80 points for lab. Let me know if I'm missing something there, but I think I found everything. And then from lecture, there's going to be the homeworks and the exams. And so everybody's score should tally out of 330. If they're missing something, obviously that needs to go in as a 0. So by downloading the grades and putting them into Excel, we can add them up, make sure that things come out to that point, that everyone has submitted every assignment, and if not, that they have a 0 in for those assignments. And that's actually, the Excel document is actually what I want you to send that to me for midterm grades. So let me show you something in Canvas really quickly. And I'm going to try to show something from the grades sheet without showing anything, any student information or anything. So I'm going to be tricky with this, I hope. So this is under grades. And if at the top of the screen you click on this little wheel, a little gear, right? Then what you'll see come up is this menu. And notice that you can download the scores.csv, and that will open just fine in Excel. Then once it's in Excel and you do your adding and your updating, then you'll want to do a save as command, and you'll want to save as the XLS, so that way it's an actual official Excel document. But that, I think, is going to be what we're going to find to be the easiest to help us identify whether students are missing things or whether they have extra pre-labs in there that need to be deleted, because I think we're dealing with a little bit of growing pains on Canvas and just needing to work with that. Okay, I hope that all makes sense, and I'm going to go ahead and go on so that we can talk a little bit about this week's labs. So notice that Lab 12 and Lab 13 are going to be this week. Lab 12, pretty straightforward. Lab 13, a little more nuanced. So I know that some of you had thought about wanting to do an upside down classroom for Lab 13. That is giving the lecture first and then having the students just come in and do the lab, you know, very chill style. And I really want to try that with any and all of you, but I really think we need to plan it ahead more than a week, so that I need to be able to find a way to get software to you to do a vodcast, and or you guys to have me do the vodcast. And since this week I'm already going to be working on a vodcast for lecture since I'll be gone, things are going to be just a little too hectic, and trying to grade exams, I'm not actually sure how I'm going to fit all of that in, to be honest. In any case, that's what we're going to go ahead and go with is waiting on that until we have a little bit more time to prep for it. We could think about maybe something like Lab 22, and in fact, if I shoot on ahead, Lab 22 might be a good one because it's the immunology, and I could see giving that lecture ahead of time and doing a flipped classroom on that day. So just a thought, maybe one, and then if we could think about 2 weeks at least in advance and have them done at least a week in advance, I think that would be the way to go on the flipped classroom. But it's an awesome thing, and I hope we can all try it for each of the sections. Excellent. Let's look at the TA guidelines for Lab 11 and 12 first. And there aren't a lot of things that I'm going to draw your attention to on this because it's actually fairly straightforward lecture about bacteriophage. But I will make note that you should read through these lecture guidelines because there is some content additions that may be helpful to your lecture, and maybe even some outside helpful hints for things that might relate. The other thing on this lab to make note of is that the students will be pouring their own plates with the overlay, and they're only the amount in the overlays is a small agar, liquid molten agar volume, which means that it solidifies really quite fast. So they need to be able to quickly get their agar, do their additions, and pour in a very timely manner. That's why we tend to set them up back at the back bench, is so that they will have enough time to do everything and then still get it poured and still get it spin or mixed before the agar solidifies. So it may be a really good idea to really monitor that station. And I say that in part because I won't be in there the whole time, because I will be taking students gradually back to take a look at the UV light box and to help them think about the results that they got from their transformation procedure. So we'll be doing that a little bit at a time as well. And some TAs can probably do that role as well at times. I know for sure that the 1 to 3 section, you guys are getting really good at doing some of those extras as well. Okay, cool. So that is our Lab 12, fairly straightforward. Now, Lab 13, much more nuanced. This is a lecture that I would say I would encourage any and all of you to do, but if you do it, you need to study a lot. This is a lecture full of content. It's a lecture full of personality. It's one that I would love for you to really do it up, do an awesome job of it. And if you don't feel that that's something that you can do this week, then please have me do the lecture, because it is one that really, really deserves its limelight, so to speak. So read through it if you are already signed up for the lecture. If you are signed up and you think, man, I'm not sure I know a lot about mycology, I'm not sure I want to do this one, let me know. And hopefully just a little bit ahead of time, and then I'll be planning to do the lecture on that day. Wonderful. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your evening, and I will see you very soon.